Hey, this is Phenoxo here with another gameplay commentary. Once again, I'm playing Team Fortress 2. Once again, I'm more than a little inebriated. I've only got about 3 or 4 hours of sleep the last evening, so if my words get a little bit tangled, if I get a little bit crazy, if I get a little bit stuttery, that's probably the reason. I did not sleep, and I have been drinking too much. I meant to go ahead and record this earlier, but apparently the only way I can really get into working on these is if I have had some booze. And what I want to talk about today isn't actually Team Fortress 2, it's Overwatch, but without beta access, I can't really get any good original content to give you guys. You'll have to deal with me flailing around with Pyro here in Team Fortress. But what I want to talk about in particular is some news that came out of BlizzCon. One of the big problems that's kind of blown up on the subreddits and in the community for Overwatch is the price tag. Blizzard has announced that it's going to be a $40 game to pre-order, or I assume to buy come release day. Now what you're going to get with that is all the maps and all the classes. They're totally eschewing the standard free-to-play model that they kind of ran with Heroes of the Storm, and they're instead going to focus on just selling the game outright. Now, the big problem everyone has with this is that they're concerned that future characters or future maps might be charged for. Map packs, in particular, I know are a big concern for some people as they can split the community. And I wanted to discuss kind of the pros and cons of each sides of this. There's actually some very good reasons to avoid going free-to-play. When you go free-to-play, you basically need to milk your players for cash. Sure, you can have a cosmetics cash shop, but usually there's other things like experience boosters or other little things to wheedle you into giving up a little bit more money because they're not getting anything up front. They're paying for the bandwidth costs for you to download the game. They're paying for the servers, but you don't have to do anything to buy in, so they've got to get their money somehow. By charging outright, they're already recouping a large chunk of their development costs and helping to pay for the servers, and they're not going to be quite as pressured to make shitty decisions as far as profiteering off the game goes. Now, they still could, of course. I mean, they could charge for almost anything, but the pressure isn't going to be on quite as heavy from their corporate offices because of that. Another benefit is that cheaters are going to be policed a little more proactively. Now, why would cheaters be more proactively policed on a game that you have to spend $40 to get into? The answer is pretty simple. It's profit. If someone cheats in Overwatch and gets perm-banned from the game, they're going to have to buy a new copy of Overwatch, and Blizzard will make another $40. Think about that for a second. On a free-to-play game, if they ban someone, it means nothing, and the person just registers a new account and comes right back. But in this scenario, there's actually a very good reason for Blizzard to ban cheaters. It's a perfectly reasonable excuse to get someone to buy the game all over again, and honestly, if you're a cheater, you deserve to have to pay for the game a second time if you want to play again. Because fuck you, you fucking cheater. That's great. Next up, another reason why to avoid free-to-play are pre-orders. Pre-orders suck for a consumer. They do. But for Blizzard, there's a few reasons they're good. Actually, I'm lying there. There's one reason they're good. No. And that reason, really, is that it lets them know how many people are interested in the game. They can extrapolate off their pre-order numbers from their previous games and see, okay, if 300,000 people pre-order the game, we can figure on 500,000 being there at launch. Hopefully they're learning from things like Diablo 3's launch, World of Warcraft expansions, and they'll be able to anticipate an accurate number of players based on the pre-order. And what that's going to let them do is have a decent amount of servers up and running, so that we're not faced with gigantic queue times, crashes, or bizarre errors that lock us out of the game that we paid for. On a free-to-play game, there's no need for pre-orders, and they'll have a much harder time gathering that data. That said, these are all very much reasons that are good for Blizzard and kind of incidentally good for players. The banning cheaters, having servers up at launch, these are okay for us, but they're not great. Like, these are things we should honestly expect out of a developer. But there's a couple other pros, honestly. And they've talked about some of these in interviews recently. I think there's one with PC Gamer, I'll probably link it in the description below, where they talk about how if they went with a free-to-play model like Heroes of the Storm, where they have a rotating cast of heroes every week that could be played, that would actually be really bad for Overwatch, because one of the main mechanics of Overwatch is switching heroes reactively. You want to switch your hero if you wind up in a situation where the other team is geared out to defeat you. Say you're playing Tracer and just getting two-shot by McCree's, maybe you want to go switch up to a tank. You know, maybe you want to be a fat-ass pig dude with a shotgun and just hook McCree in and blow his fucking face off. You can't do that if that character's locked that week. But if you pay $40 up front and you have the whole game, laid out before you like a smorgasbord, you can do that. So that I kind of agree with. But I still kind of feel like it's the least shitty option of several shitty options. With a purely multiplayer shooter, it's kind of accepted practice nowadays to be free to play. Charging up front for it is kind of something that's not done if you don't have a single player campaign for the most part. And I can kind of understand that. I mean, seriously, $40 for a pure multiplayer shooter is kind of in the fuck that price territory. $30 would be a little more acceptable. I mean, $30 is about what Vermintide cost. I love that game. It's really enjoyable. You should go check out my other video for it. But at the same time, like, why would you charge more for a game than Vermintide? You don't even have to worry about AI. It's all player versus player. Well, there's a few reasons they can. Some of it's, art requirements. And you can see that. There's 21 different characters, and they all have different run cycles. They all have vastly different animation cycles. If you play Junkrat, or watch Junkrat in my case, you'll see the camera kind of hobbles along whenever he steps on his peg leg. They all have unique animation cycles. They all have incredibly unique graphics and reload animations. And this is for a game where there are more than twice the number of classes that Team Fortress 2 has, and Team Fortress 2 is the gold standard in class-based shooters. They've got a fuck ton of work put into this, so I can kind of understand paying for that. Besides, and here's the real reason they can get away with charging $40. We have nothing else to play. There is nothing else like Team Fortress 2 on the market today aside from Overwatch. And Team Fortress 2 is ancient and really starting to show its age. I think even Valve is kind of realizing that and seems to be kind of easing off support for it. It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing stuff for Team Fortress 3 in the next couple of years. See, we've got Battlefield. Battlefield is a series that claims to have classes. They've got the medic, support, assault, and engineer. And really, they all kind of shoot the same. They all kind of move the same. Sure, engineer, you might have a rocket launcher to do a little bit of extra damage to a tank. Assault, you might have some shock paddles to bring someone back to life. But everyone still kind of runs around and moves and shoots the same. In Overwatch, you can play a chick with a jetpack. You can play a dude who uses mines to launch himself 40 feet into the air and rain destruction on his enemies. You can play a chick who teleports around, blinking forward 3 times in rapid succession, gets shot, and then rewinds time to heal herself. Battlefield has nothing like that. Battlefield doesn't even have anything as cool as rocket jumping or the Scout's double jump in Team Fortress 2. Then we've got games like Dirty Bomb, which is maybe a hair better than Battlefield as far as differentiating between classes, but it's still very samey. Battleborn, honestly, I don't really know at this point, but I kind of hate the art style. It's so ridiculous and over the top, while Overwatch is sitting there looking beautiful and almost reminiscent of the superhero cartoons I would watch as a kid. Really, there's nothing else like it. And that's why everyone's going to wind up paying $40 for it. It's not because it's a good decision on Blizzard's part. It's not because they'll be able to afford servers. It's not because fuck cheaters. There's nothing else like it in the space. And honestly, Blizzard always overcharges a little bit. But they deliver on the quality. So we're all going to wind up buying it. Let's be honest. And even if we don't, it'll probably go free to play in 2 or 3 years, and then we'll all wind up playing it then. And what about post-launch? Like, post-launch, once we've all opened up our wallets and vomited our money into Blizzard's suckling gullet, what are they going to do? Obviously, they've got to make money somehow. They're going to be paying for servers for the game. So they've got to have a plan to keep making money and producing new maps. What they've established is that they're going to sell skins. They haven't said that. They haven't admitted to it. But all the pre-order bonuses are alternate skins for characters. And that's kind of smart. Team Fortress has hats. Team Fortress has made bank on hats. Skins are a step above hats. You know, I could be a soldier with a sweet ass, like, top hat that stretches up into the sky. Or I could play Overwatch and play a Widowmaker who is decked out in what amounts to almost bondage gear. I could play a Bastion who is covered in plants and overgrowth, so that when he's sitting there doing his taunt with a little bird on his finger, you know, he looks even more at peace with nature and almost, I want to say anachronistic, but that's not the right word, but at odds with his mechanical nature. You could play Tracer, who is dressed like a fighter pilot from Top Gun almost. You know, these are all the pre-order bonuses for the $60 version. And I'll be honest with you, I pre-ordered that $60 version. It's 20 extra bucks. I get like 5 or 6 extra skins. Some of them I really like the younger version of Soldier 46. I get Soldier 76. My apologies. It looks really nice, and I much prefer that. But at the same time, you know, I can understand why some people would be like, why would you do that? Well, the other plus of the situation is that it unlocks a character for Heroes of the Storm, Blizzard's Dota-like, their League of Legends-like, where, you know, you get a free character if you pre-order Overwatch than the $60 version. You get Tracer in that game. And those characters usually run about $10. So basically I'm getting 5 or 6 skins for about $10 over the normal cost of the game. It works out pretty great to my logic, because we all know Blizzard's going to be charging at least $10 or $20 per skin. They get away with worse for charging for mounts in World of Warcraft. They're going to charge at least $10 a skin in Overwatch. How else will they make money, though? Obviously, it can't be just skins. They're going to be pushing content in this game forever. And this is where I kind of get into theory crafting with it. Are they going to come out with more heroes eventually? Will they sell more heroes? And my answer to that is that I don't think so. The main reason that they won't, and I think they've kind of committed to this with their whole method of charging up front and giving you all the heroes, is that they always want you to feel like you have all the tools to counter another player. And this seems to be a core design element of the game. If someone is playing a class that you feel like you need to change classes to counter, the option is going to be there for you. And I think if they add new heroes, they're just going to give them to you. They might not, like the default skin might wind up looking way worse than a lot of the alternate skins, but they're going to give the hero to you. I would stake money on it, simply because that's entirely in line with their established design vision for the game. Now, I'm not saying that's going to constantly be the case. You can look at developers like the guys that make Payday 2 for an example of a developer who has made a promise on something and gone back on it. But that is their current design vision, and I don't expect that to change. Particularly since skins can be an excessively lucrative market. People love playing dress up, particularly in an online game they play all the time. My only real concern with Overwatch, my big negative, the thing that kind of terrifies me about the game, is the idea that they won't allow fan maps. That they won't give us the tools to make our own skins. Team Fortress 2 is amazing in this regard. Valve gave us a map editor. People make maps, crazy maps sometimes, like Trainsaw Laser. If you haven't seen Trainsaw Laser, go look that shit up. You're in for a treat. It's amusing as fuck. They also gave us the tools to make hats. They gave us a system to submit hats to them to be added to the game and to make money off the hats and the maps that we submit to them. There are people who make over $100,000 a year making hats for Team Fortress. And that is part of why the game has lasted for so many years. There's always new maps. If Valve doesn't feel like putting out an update, they can just troll through the community bin, pull out some of the nicest looking maps and cosmetics, bundle it together, and release it into the game. And then the players get something interesting to mess around with. You know, maybe it's crazy robot hats. Maybe it's some new Halloween maps. Maybe it's some cool... Oh, excuse me, I'm very burpy tonight. Maybe it's some cool cosmetics or special effects that glow around your weapons. Whatever the case, Valve keeps people interested in the game. Valve makes a little bit of money off their cut, and the people that design this stuff can almost make a living working on Valve's game. Overwatch needs to do this too. They need to give us a map editor. If they give us a map editor, I guarantee them that the things the community will create for them will probably blow their own designers out of the water. Half of the process of designing a successful multiplayer map isn't skill. It isn't knowledge of map flow and high-level competitive gaming. It's fucking luck. I have friends who are working on a competitive shooter right now, actually. And he was just telling me about how one of their artists just threw together a map the other day, and it turned out to be one of the best maps in the game, even better than their actual map design guys' maps. It's one of their favorites to play. And it's the same sort of thing in every game. If you go play Halo 2, Lockout is one of the best maps. It's almost all anyone wants to play. Sure, there's all these other maps, and they all have their merits, but that's one that just catches people, and it's balanced, and it's fun, and it tweaks all the right little knobs in your brain to make you enjoy it. And if you want to get as many maps as you can like that, you need to get as many people making maps and playing maps as possible. You need to enable custom games and custom maps. And those are the things that I worry about with Overwatch. If Blizzard can give us that, they will have earned my loyalty for that game for years, maybe even a decade. And I know they can give us that because they've done it with every StarCraft game. They kind of fucked up a little with how they're shared in StarCraft 2. But they gave us an amazing editor with those games, and if they can give us a decent map editor for Overwatch, I shudder to think what the community will give them in return. Thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with this. I've kind of run out of clips here while I'm recording this, so I will lay some more in there. It might run a little longer than I'm talking, but I hope it's enjoyable to watch nonetheless. Have a great evening, folks, and enjoy yourselves.